The night cracked open like a fault line the moment she asked me to stay, and everything I had buried for years began to rise to the surface at once. I remember standing in the doorway with my jacket half on, rain breathing against the windows, the kind of silence that hums so loudly it feels like judgment. Her eyes held a question that wasn't really a question, and my heart knew the answer before my pride could catch up. I had come to return a box of things, a life reduced to objects, but the past has a way of pulling you back by the collar when you least expect it. That night, the words hung between us like a fragile bridge, and I knew that crossing it could either save me or finally break what was left of us. Before the story pulls you deeper, if you believe in kindness that moves like a wave, in second chances that arrive quietly instead of with fireworks, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are still waiting to heal. My name is Daniel Harper, and this happened in a small town in the United States where church bells still ring on Sundays and people wave even when they don't know your name. I had once thought that kind of place could hold a marriage together just by its goodness alone. Emily and I met there, two earnest kids with Christian names and big plans, building a life brick by brick on faith, love, and the promise that we would never become strangers. We married young, believing that love was enough to protect us from the sharp edges of the world. For a while, it was. We prayed together before meals, sang hymns in the car, laughed over burned dinners, and believed we were doing life the right way. But life does not ask permission before it tests you. The factory where I worked shut down after a bad year, and what I thought would be a temporary setback turned into months of rejection letters and restless nights. I told myself I was fine, that a man just needs time to figure things out, but fear has a way of turning inward and poisoning everything it touches. I grew quiet, then distant. I stopped talking about my worries and started pretending I didn't have any. Emily noticed, of course she did, but I brushed off her concern with tired smiles and hollow reassurances. I told myself I was protecting her when really I was protecting my pride. As the bills stacked up and my sense of worth shrank, I became someone I barely recognized. I snapped at small things, retreated into silence, and let resentment simmer where gratitude used to live. Church felt heavier, prayers felt unanswered, and the faith that once anchored me began to feel like another thing I was failing at. Emily tried to reach me in the ways she knew how, with patience, with gentle reminders that we were a team, with hope that felt almost stubborn. I responded with walls. Not loud fights, not dramatic scenes, just a slow, quiet drifting apart that is often more dangerous because it looks like peace from the outside. The night we separated was not explosive. There were no screaming matches, no shattered plates. It was a calm decision made through tired eyes and broken expectations. We agreed that space might help us breathe again. I packed a bag and moved into a friend's spare room, telling myself it was temporary, that clarity would come with distance. Instead, loneliness moved in like an unwelcome tenant. Days blurred together as I took odd jobs, avoided church, and learned how loud silence can be when you have too much time to listen to it. Months passed, seasons changed, and the town kept moving without us. I heard through mutual friends that Emily was doing okay, volunteering more, leaning into her faith, rebuilding her life one careful step at a time. I told myself I was happy for her, but the truth was more complicated. I missed her in ways that surprised me, in the small rituals like morning coffee and evening prayers, in the way she believed in me even when I couldn't. I missed the version of myself that existed when she was beside me. The box of things I brought back that night was supposed to be closure. Old photos, a sweater she loved, a Bible with notes in the margins written in her careful handwriting. I had delayed returning it because facing her felt like reopening a wound that had finally scabbed over. But something in me knew I couldn't keep carrying pieces of a life that wasn't mine anymore. When she opened the door, the house smelled the same, like clean laundry and faint traces of vanilla, and for a moment it felt like no time had passed at all. We stood there, two people who knew each other's habits and histories, unsure of how to stand without reaching out. The rain started then, soft at first, then heavier, drumming against the roof like a countdown. She asked me to come in, and I did, telling myself it was just to stay dry, just to set the box down. The living room looked warmer than the places I had been calling home, filled with small signs of her life moving forward. There were new throw pillows, a framed verse on the wall about endurance, a quiet strength that made my chest ache. When she asked if I wanted to stay the night, it wasn't a trap or a plea. It was an offer shaped by kindness and boundaries, by the understanding that sometimes compassion means letting someone rest without promising them more. My response came from a place of wounded pride and fear of false hope. I made it clear I wasn't there to pretend everything was fine or to settle into a comfort that wasn't mine to claim. What I didn't say was that I was terrified of sleeping alone again, of facing another night with my thoughts as my only company. She nodded, accepting my limits without argument, and prepared the guest room. Watching her move with calm assurance stirred something in me. This was the woman I had loved, not because she needed me, but because she was strong in her own right. As the night deepened, the house settled into quiet, and I lay awake listening to the rain ease into a gentle whisper. In that stillness, something inside me finally broke open. Not in despair, but in honesty. I admitted to myself that I had been running from my own vulnerability, that my faith had faltered because I had tried to carry everything alone. Sometime before dawn, I found myself praying in a way I hadn't in a long time. Not asking for fixes or signs, but for courage to face my failures and humility to seek forgiveness, whether or not it led me back to Emily. The next morning arrived softly, sunlight spilling across the kitchen floor as she made coffee. There was no rush, no pressure, just two people sharing space with care. We talked, not about getting back together, but about the work we had each been doing to heal. I listened more than I spoke, realizing how much I had missed simply being present. Over the following weeks, we stayed in touch. Coffee turned into walks, walks into shared meals, always moving at a pace that respected the past without being trapped by it. I found steady work again, not glamorous, but honest. I returned to church, sitting in the back at first, letting familiar hymns remind me of who I was before fear took over. Emily and I attended counseling separately, then together, learning how to communicate without defense, how to lean on faith instead of using it as a shield. The real change didn't come all at once. It arrived in small moments, like choosing to speak up instead of shutting down, like admitting when I was scared instead of pretending I was fine. It came when I realized that love is not proven by never failing, but by taking responsibility when you do. Emily never asked me to be perfect. She asked me to be honest, and that turned out to be harder and more freeing than anything else. One evening, months after that rainy night, we sat on the porch watching the sky turn gold. The air was calm, the kind that feels like a blessing you didn't know you needed. There was no dramatic declaration, no sudden resolution. Just a quiet understanding that we were choosing each other again, not out of habit or fear, but with open eyes and steadier hearts. We knew there would still be challenges, but we also knew we were better equipped to face them together. If this story has been unfolding in your heart as much as it has on the screen, if it has reminded you of someone you miss or a second chance you're hoping for, please take a moment now to like the video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement helps keep stories of healing and redemption alive for others who might be standing in their own doorways, unsure of what to do next. Before we reach the ending, I want to ask you something special. Please comment below with the word hope, or share a brief thought about a second chance that changed your life. Your words might be exactly what another viewer needs to read today. The night she asked me to stay taught me that love doesn't always look like grand gestures or easy answers. Sometimes it looks like a couch you refuse to sleep on because you're finally learning to respect yourself and the person you love. Sometimes it looks like staying, not to reclaim the past, but to build something truer than what you had before. And sometimes, it looks like faith returning quietly, like rain easing into morning light, reminding you that even after the longest storms, there is still room to come home.